All right, guys, it's Jahlon. And as you know, I never do reaction content. It's not the type of content I like to do. However, in the last about 24 hours, I've been asked about 10 times to make reaction content to Lucky Ghost. Lucky Ghost put out a video on Ashes of Creation where he talks about the single biggest problem Ashes of Creation faces. Now, the thing is that I gotta love the thumbnail with the hot chick that's not even Ashes of Creation assets. There's plenty of Ashes of Creation assets that you could have put up there, but you chose not to. I came over here, content creator, I got to give respect to, 107,000 subscribers. A lot of the videos getting multiple 100,000 views. That doesn't mean the content is good. It just means the content resonates with certain people. Before I jump into the Ashes of Creation video specifically, I want to play this little clip.
Why would you want to play an MMO solo? Let's start with that, because the truth is a lot of us end up spending most of our time playing our MMOs by ourselves. Whether it's
All right, I'm going to have a hard time accepting anything in reality from a YouTuber who says we spend the majority of our time in MMOs by ourselves. While this is true for some MMOs, MMORPGs, Final Fantasy XIV is an MMORPG, but it is really a single player game with a multiplayer experience. I'm going to let a little bit more of that clip play in fairness.
on purpose or not, we log into these massively multiplayer worlds and then do solo activities like questing or farming some rare cosmetic. And a lot of us spend very little time doing the group activities in MMOs like raiding. So
a lot of us spend a very little amount of time doing the group content in MMOs like raiding. I don't understand. I don't know. All I know is that if that's how you feel, if that's the direction you take in your opinion on MMORPGs, then we're already in trouble. So I think it's not just this Ashes of Creation video that we're about to listen to. We need to understand the bias that the creator is starting from. Now, this is a 22-minute video. I'm gonna probably not end up covering all of it, but let's just go ahead and start.
this video is going to piss a lot of people off.
Stop. If you're making a video where you know you're going to piss a lot of people off, it tells me a lot about what I need to know about you as a content creator. You're not really interested in scratching the surface and looking for any details. You're interested in making clickbait, inflammatory commentary, which is really what I've already heard in your first teaser video and then in this one. If you know you're making content that's going to piss people off, you're just looking to incite people. You're looking to get that reactionary view, that reactionary response from people.
Can just imagine the comment section now. Heck, the thumbnail probably has some of you already furiously typing on your keyboard about how I'm trying to kill another MMO. But you're
Okay, about how I'm trying to kill another MMO. I don't even know who this guy is. I've never heard of this person before today. And as you guys know, I'm pretty much dialed in with MMORPG content creators. I don't think you've ever killed an MMO, let alone you killing another MMO. So I can already pick up a lot of things about this creator, and I'm going to guess they didn't do any amount of research. They're just taking whatever they find on a cursory glance.
You're wrong. Quite the opposite. I'm trying to save Ashes of Creation. So hear me out before you leave a comment, because you'll likely realize I'm on your side.
I can tell you right now, if you're a single player in MMORPGs, you're not on my side. I don't know whose side you're on, but no, you're not on my side.
just want Ashes to succeed, but if Ashes of Creation goes through with its current design without changing anything, its chart is going to look no different than any other dying MMO today. I don't say that lightly. I know how much copium some of us are sucking in.
Did this guy just say the word copium? How am I supposed to take this guy seriously? You just used the word copium. For those of you that don't understand where copium comes from, do a little research on the word copium, and then you'll start to really think differently about the content creators who are using that phrase.
Hoping that Ashes of Creation will be the next MMO to rekindle our love for the genre. Trust me, I'm sucking in more of this stuff than Narc, and he's literally made of it at this point. But
okay, so good on you for, good on Narc for getting mentioned everywhere. Good on you, Narc. You're doing a great job. But this guy is trying to like pull on the Ashes of Creation community heartstrings because Narc is your favorite guy. He's your favorite content creator. So I don't really understand that plug. You're twice the size of Narc. Maybe you're doing him a solid. I don't know. It doesn't come off very genuine.
There is a massive problem most of you are ignoring, and that problem is you don't like Ashes of Creation. Ashes of Creation in its currently planned design is not made for you.
Who is this guy? You're telling the viewership that the game is not made for you, yet Ashes of Creation has 4 million registered account holders. Ashes of Creation has well over, at this point, 100,000 backers between Kickstarter, the Summer Backer Program, and all the years of webpage sales that give people access to Alpha 1 down through Beta 2. And people don't like Ashes.
You are a WoW player, an ESO player, a Final Fantasy XIV player, a Guild Wars 2 player. Chances are you're going to hate AOC once you get past the first few days. Heck,
you've literally lumped in the most theme park game of theme park games, Final Fantasy XIV, which has never had any form of open world PvP. And you've lumped it in with ESO, Guild Wars 2, and WoW, all of which that have open world PvP or more open than just arenas.
I even asked you guys if you would like a game like AOC, and you said no. I just asked in a way where you didn't know I was asking about AOC. I posed the question like this: how would you feel about an open world MMO with always on PvP that you could never turn off? 82% of you.
So 82% of you said not for me on your channel of people that follow you. The problem here is that you're using anecdotal evidence from an isolated community. Now, sure, 10,000 responses and is an amazing amount of responses. Thoughts on an MMO with forced always on PvP? Not for me. Okay, but that's indicative of your community, and your community, while it is large, is 100,000 people, but it's not be all end all. I'm going to counter that point with looking at the responses from Summit, Shrouds, Tim the Tapman's, and Asmongold's communities that are all infinitely larger than Lucky Ghosts, and they get a much higher probability of, yes, I want a game with open world PvP. Let's also look at the open world PvP demographic right now. People have been looking for an open world PvP for a long time. Arcade, Revelation Online, as bad as it was, it did have open world PvP. It had PvP events, it had sieges, it had capture points. New World was, supposed to be this open world game that they ended up doing the opt-in thing in order to cater more to the Care Bear audience that wants to be able to dodge PvP. And my Care Bears, I love you, nothing but love for you. I know you guys don't want a PvP. So sure, you have 10,000 votes, but I also want to say that from an educational perspective, you have 100,000 people on your YouTube channel and you have 10,000 votes. That only represents 10% response of your entire community, which means the plus minus on this is probably in the neighborhood of 40%, 50%. If you got the respondent data from everybody else, that might paint a different picture. You also have to remember that you asked a very inflammatory question. You said thoughts on an MMO with forced always on PvP. The people who want that don't necessarily feel the need to vote, yes, sign me up. But the people who don't want that, that is a more tried and true, that is a more in near your heart. You're going to answer no because that's not what you want.
That had an opinion one way or the other said, no way, not for me. And I would wager that the 18% that voted that you would want this, a substantial portion of you have never played an MMO with the AOC's proposed PvP system. And before you say, hey, I have played Lineage 2 or some other MMO where you can kill anyone, anytime with a flagging system that turns people purple and red based on how everything transpires, I am well aware a handful of you love this type of PvP. You are the rule 34 of PvP. You are an outlier. Yes, you like it. The problem is almost nobody else does.
Almost nobody else does. So where are you getting that conclusion? Arcade was insanely popular for a Asian import pay-to-win swipe game. It was insanely popular. Something along the neighborhood of 26 servers at 6,600 people cap. About 171,000 people, and those servers were on queue for weeks after NAEU launch. Factor in the fact that ArcAge, every single time it did a fresh start, for the first 4 times it did fresh starts, those servers were on queue. BDO had a large following of people, but people didn't like the lack of a player-driven economy. They didn't like the wait. They didn't like the fact that it was action combat. So BDO's numbers have to be interpreted based on the fact there's a lot of things about that game that don't make it a mainstream MMO. Revelation Online was insanely popular at launch until they had the time zone issue and the glitch and the fact that it was pay to win. New World was insanely popular at launch, almost 1 million concurrent players. And remember, New World sold 4.5 million copies inside the first 30 days. They sold 16 million copies within the first 6 months. That makes that game insanely popular. It just wasn't a very sustainable game. New World also can arguably be not a final product. It's still a developmental product. So I don't know where you're saying that there's a bunch of people who have never played games like this. EverQuest, Lineage 2, EVE Online, they all demonstrate there is a demographic of people who want always-on flagging.
Ashes of Creation's PvP is a 1-to-1 replica of the PvP system from Lineage 2. I have played it.
No, it's not. It is not a 1-to-1 replica of Lineage 2.
I have lived it. I have thousands of hours in that system. It was my first MMO and I degened it like the disgusting goblin of an MMO fiend that I am. What this means is I know every single problem with this system and how detrimental it's going to be to an MMO that tries to implement it in the modern day. Now, I don't expect you to just take my word for it. So in this video, I'm going to go over those problems and the inevitable effect they will have on the game's performance over time. I will also go over some proposed solutions and ask for you to propose solutions in the comments as well. My goal in this video is not to stifle interest in AOC, quite the opposite. I saw the Archer playtest and I am in love with the world they have created. I want to get lost in that world. I want Ashes of Creation to do well, but I am also painfully aware of exactly why it won't if it doesn't address the problems I'm going to bring to light in the video today. The first and most obvious problem is that Ashes of Creation is an always-on open world PvP game and 90% of MMO players flat out won't enjoy that. That means
Where do you get that number? 90% of MMORPG players won't enjoy that. So are you assuming that all of the Final Fantasy 14 people, all 2 or 3 million of them are going to come over and create a really big, large pool of player base? Sure, if they do, what if let's say all the 10.8 million WoW players came over and then we take all the ones that played on PvP servers? What about all the Lineage 2 players that are going to come over? What about all the ArcAge players, all the Revelation Online players, all the BDO players, all the Guild Wars 2 players who like, PvP? And where do you say give me something where you say 90% of people won't enjoy it more than just a poll of 10,000 people on your channel, where at the very beginning you talk about players who play MMORPG solo. If you don't acknowledge that your own interpretation is people play solo, of course, if everybody plays MMORPG solo, they're not going to like PvP.
Right from the beginning, almost everyone that tries this game is sure to not like it. But you know what they will like? Raid Shadow Legends.
Oh my god. This guy's a clown. This guy is such a shill. And nobody should be supporting this guy, ever. Okay, I'm going to just say this. That is the worst. That is the absolute worst product placement person I've ever seen. And this person is clearly doing it for the money. This person doesn't care about being an authentic personality. They don't care about being a content creator. They don't care about changing anything. All they care about is doing clickbait videos with big breasted anime characters on their thumbnail so that they can get you into the point where they can show the Raid Shadow Legends thing.
Very brief stint of starting up and enjoying a few fun levels in the low-level areas in the new world, the PvP will kick in. The griefing will kick in. It's been proven time and time again that MMOs that focus solely on PvP players never achieve more than a niche status in the MMO genre. The best...
Did this guy just say that Lineage 2 never achieved more than a niche status in the MMO genre?
They can hope to do is to carve out a tiny corner of a tiny market for themselves and their players. I think AOC can satisfy
a tiny corner of a tiny market. You guys know on my Twitch show on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I talk about the target audience thing all the time. I talk about the target audience where I say you need to know who you're targeting. I don't think Lucky Ghost has any idea about the demographics of MMORPGs and just how many people want a PvP game.
Satisfy both groups. I really do. I think you can satisfy the PvP sweatlords who are happiest when others.
See, right there. I think you can satisfy the PvP sweatlords. You're not. This person is a Care Bear. This person is anti-PvP. You're anti-PvP because you called them PvP sweatlords. You don't want PvP. You're afraid to PvP because I don't know why, but grow a pair, man, and fill your jockstrap.
Are rage quitting the game because of them. I think it can also satisfy the PvE players who just want to get lost in a beautiful MMO and come together to take down epic raid bosses, dungeons, and occasionally group up for PvP content when they want to. And I'll go ahead.
Okay, so PvE players who want to do content and group up when they want to. That is not the game that Intrepid Studios is building. Intrepid Studios is building a game that is PvX. What you're trying to say is you're not trying to save Ashes of Creation. What you're trying to do is you're trying to change Ashes of Creation into something that you want. If you want a theme park game with no PvP, go play Final Fantasy XIV. It's a very good game. I wish I could shill like this guy and I had some sort of reference code or referral code. Final Fantasy XIV is an amazing game with really difficult raids and really difficult bosses and a really rich storyline, but that's not what Steven wants to build.
Ahead and tell you how I think AOC can achieve this before the video's over. But here's the rub, the inescapable fact that if you're a PvE main in the MMO of your choice, you won't like Ashes of Creation. You won't like when you're trying to level with your friends and a group of sweaty players comes and bullies you out of your spot. Oh.
Once again, a group of sweaty players comes and bullies you out of your spot. This is a huge part. The big thing here is that it's not your spot, it's a spot. If you want to take it, you want to keep it, you have to hold it, which requires PvP.
Oh, did the community work hard to upgrade a node and unlock a new dungeon? That's nice, but I've seen how that plays out. You won't be allowed inside that nice new dungeon. Sorry, that's going to be locked down by one of two groups of players. If you're lucky, it's going to be locked down by the sweatiest, most degenerate PvP guild on the server. If you go inside, they'll grief you until you leave. Griefing is going to be something that comes up a lot in this video because all the poor, inexperienced players that have never played in this flagging system are under the assumption that they are going to be protected by this flagging system. And this could not be more wrong. Yeah,
this guy's an idiot. This guy doesn't know how the flagging system works because yes, the flagging system will protect you. I want to see how wrong he gets the flagging system.
Will not be protected by this flagging system. This flagging system is easily abused and circumvented in its current design. And this is my primary reason for making this video. Steven, if you are listening, you cannot recycle this flagging system from a game from 2003 without changing it substantially or adding more systems to protect the players. You must improve upon it to protect.
So this guy clearly doesn't know that Ashes of Creation took the Lineage 2 system and improved upon it.
The players that aren't griefers, because as you know, griefers not only survive under the system, but they thrive under the system. And I know I'm not going to say anything that Steven isn't aware of. He played this game as well. He played Lineage 2, but he also hasn't addressed these problems publicly. So either he's hoping it's just going to work out, or he's thinking the rest of the game will be good enough to retain players in spite of these glaring flaws. And I'm warning you all now, it won't, it can't be. These flaws cause way too many quit moments daily for most of the players in the game. Now I'm going to explain why, and I'm also going to ask you, the viewer, to help come up with a solution. If you think of a way to improve upon this system to protect normal players from griefers, leave it in the comments below. So back to the scenario we began to describe. If your group is in a dungeon and you're merrily grinding along, the guild that has this dungeon locked down will show up and flag on you. They will not go red on you because generally the punishment for going red is good enough that it prevents players from doing so excessively. I say generally because it's not always effective, but we'll touch more on that later. However, they don't need to go red. They'll go purple. The healer is throwing out big heals, trying to keep the mobs in the dungeon from killing the tank, because if their tank dies, the whole group wipes. And in the process, the healer is burning through their mana supply. The end is inevitable. You don't win this exchange as the group that's mid-pole against a sweaty PvP guild. The PvE group trying to enjoy the dungeon has two options and both result in them losing. They would likely lose the fight even if they weren't already engaged with NPC enemies, because it's likely the top PvP guild locking down the dungeon. They are sweatier. They don't log out of the game. They are generally the group of players involved in all of the seediest forms of play, meaning they RMT, they bot, they do anything it takes to be the—
Whoa. Hold on. I'm gonna throw his closed captioning up. I'm gonna slow this down to 1.0 and I'm gonna back up a second.
enemies, because it's likely the top PvP guild locking down the dungeon. They are sweatier. They don't log out of the game. They are generally the group of players involved in all of the seediest forms of play, meaning they RMT, they bot, they do anything it takes to be the number.
Okay, if you say that the game, if the top PvP guilds are the ones who RMT, they bot, then you need to stop playing MMORPGs. You need to stop being an MMORPG content creator, because I've been in top guilds in many games, EVE Online, Arcade, and no, the top guilds don't always bot. They don't always RMT. I know lots of guild leaders in Ashes of Creation. I speak to many of the guild leaders on a daily basis. the majority of them all have the philosophy that if you bot, if you RMT, if you buy gold, the guild will kick you out because they don't want to deal with the reputation that you bring. So there is so much bad bias in this video from Lucky Ghost that I'm not actually sure we're going to get to a point in a reasonable amount of time.
#1 guild so that they can survive and dominate in this always-on PvP game. You, the normal player trying to enjoy the dungeon after work, you don't stand a chance in an even fight, but that's not relevant because they're not going to attack while you aren't fighting NPCs. They're going to wait until your tank is mid-pull and picking away at your team's health until NPCs kill you for them. If you fight back, you will go purple, and that is their biggest hope, because if you go purple, they can dispatch you all the quicker as they will unload on your team, which will be caught fighting them and the mobs that the tank pulled at the same time. If you're lucky, you won't be mid-pull when the other team rolls up. At this point, you'll either both stand there until one gets bored and leave, or you'll fight for the spot. It becomes not a battle of wills, but a battle of time. Who is
What is he talking about? If a guild has a dungeon on lockdown, they're not concerned about 1 or 2 red. They're not concerned about getting a couple of corrupted kills, because they're going to be in the dungeon grinding mobs and immediately working off that corruption. So the scenario that you pointed out where either the top PvP guild is a bunch of sweaty, neckbeards living in mom's basement and they do all the most vile things like bot and RMT, or they're not that and they stand there and stare at you.
willing to spend their night getting nothing done? Who has more time to waste in the game? And guess what? It's not you, it's them. They are the top guild that is holding this dungeon down because they don't have a life outside of this game. They're on it all day and all night, and they live to make other people quit the game.
I have never been in a guild that lived to get people quit the game, ever. Good guilds know that you can't drive players out of the game. You can't. If you drive players out of the game, you destroy the game that you want to play. Arcage had this problem. People just unmercilessly killed the other faction. It was a faction-based game, not an open-world flagging game. So you were supposed to kill the other faction, but then when people got disenfranchised, they quit the game. Top guilds don't do that. Top guilds want to be able to play.
More miserable you are, the happier they are. It is a direct correlation for them. You might eventually...
If you're going to say anything is a direct correlation, can I please see some empirical data? Can I see surveys? Can I see polls? Can I see respondent data? Can I see interviews that you've done? It sounds to me like Lucky Ghost is just making up a bunch of stuff in order to justify making a 22-minute video.
Choose to duke it out, or you might choose to waste their time until you have to sign off for the night, feeling good that they got nothing done, but also knowing you didn't have fun. You just wasted the 3 hours you had to play stalemating with one of the sweatiest PvP guilds in the game. They will do this until you leave the dungeon, and they will keep doing it until you decide not to come back. So you'll go to the second most interesting spot in the game to level with your friends, and guess what? The second sweatiest PvP guild will be locking that down, or the best PvP guild will get bored of their area because no one's going there anymore, and they'll come knocking on your door again, looking for people to grief, hoping to get a quick, uneven exchange where they can kill you while you're mid-pull or outnumbered yet again. And
Again, why is this idiot correlating that the top PvP guilds are griefing guilds? The top PvP guilds in Ashes of Creation are going to do things like siege nodes and siege castles and build their own wealth. They're not interested in running around and griefing 8 people that are running a dungeon. I'm not quite sure where this is coming from. I mean, I have Jack hanging behind me. Lucky Ghost can show me on Jack where this sweaty PvP guild hurt him. But I don't get this. This sounds like honestly, this sounds like a whiny bitch who doesn't want a PvP.
I'm not making this up out of thin air. These are not hypothetical situations. This is exactly what happens. Lineage 2 had the exact same open world design. It had the exact same flagging PvP system.
Okay, Lineage 2 does not have the exact same design.
There is nothing different in the design of the PvP and AOC from Lineage 2 from 20 years ago that is going to stop this from happening. The system is inherently flawed. It rewards griefing. It rewards being an asshole. It promotes a style of play that ensures that only one group is allowed to have fun at a time. Now, I said...
No, it absolutely doesn't do that. It doesn't encourage that. It actually prevents that.
Earlier, you'd be lucky if the sweatiest PvP guild on the server was the one locking the dungeon down. And you're probably wondering, why would I be lucky if it's the sweatiest PvP guild on the server? My sweet summer lamb, ripe for the slaughter. You have so much to learn about purple and red flag.
Wow, this guy is such a condescending prick. I don't know why. Man, if this is what it takes to be a popular YouTuber, I guess I'm screwed because I'm never going to be this guy.
systems in an open world. The other option is it's the RMT guild locking it down. The people, often from other countries, who turn playing this game into a job where they sell their drops and their gold for real money on third-party websites. They always have the best gear, they always bought, and they're always reinforced by more bots.
Wait a minute. Do they always have the best gear, or do they sell the gear on the RMT website? I'm confused.
They are usually the only ones capable of keeping even the sweatiest PvP guilds out of an area. They will employ all of the dirtiest tricks in the book, including but not limited to the ones I've mentioned so far. They will also...
All right, this person is, I'm done. Unfortunately, I only got through 10 minutes of this video, and I literally, I can't do any more of this video. I literally can't, at all. This video is so bad. This video is so just, I want to have the point. I don't know what I'm talking about. So I do want to say, though, I do find it funny that the entire purpose of this this video was apparently to do like, subscribe for more content, also install raid free. So this video was a walking billboard for this person to sell more Raid Shadow Legends. What I want to do is I want to actually include a point from Steven. Greetings, brother. Awesome video. Just a few points I'd love to add. Much of the Ashe's corruption system has taken into account these concerns. In my experience with similar flagging systems, such as that of Lineage 2, there were very apparent flaws in implementation. Some of the adjustments that have been made for the Ashe's approach to open world flagging are as follows. Abilities with CC effects do not apply to non-combatants. The target of the CC ability must be flagged in order to suffer the CC effects. This prevents players from opening attacks that stun players during a pull. So that means if I'm green and you're purple and you try to hit me, you can't CC me. You can't CC lock down a non-combatant. Corruption gain also takes into account level disparity between the player killed and the corrupted. The greater the disparity, the higher the corruption accrued. PK alts would be highly ineffective since acquiring corruption will apply dampening effects on skill damage for PvP, the higher the corruption score becomes. All those things that Lineage 2 didn't do well. Working corruption off through XP grinding also takes significantly longer than Lineage 2, and during that time we've created a bounty system that reveals corrupted players' locations on the map. It is true that Ashes is a PvX game, and that means it won't be for everyone. And that's okay. Testing will further refine our approach for corruption, but as a system, it is core to introducing risk versus reward while disincentivizing griefing. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a DM on Discord or Twitter. This was basically the giant, ultimate, bitch slap from Steven, where he said, look, man, you didn't even do all your research. And again, I said that at the beginning. Lucky Ghost is highly opinionated. I don't know what their bad experience with open world PvP has been, but at the very beginning I said their belief is MMORPG players don't do group content. MMORPG players do play solo. Well, if you're playing that, then you're not really the demographic for Ashes of Creation to begin with. Final Fantasy XIV players who never talk to other players, they just auto queue into their dungeons or their raids. They're very quiet. They're antisocial. That's not the target audience of Ashes. Ashes is taking us back to the core philosophy of MMORPG, massive multiplayer online role-playing game. There is going to be interdependency. You are going to have to rely on other players. You are going to have to group. And guess what? If you go to a dungeon to grind and there's a sweaty PvP guild, hey Kalez, hey DA, I guess he's calling you two out. If that's going to happen, then you either need to have a PvP contingent in your guild that can come take care of the problem for you, or you need to know mercenaries that will come in and clear the dungeon out for you. That is the nature of the game. Also, as a final reminder, the best guilds in Ashes aren't going to be running around being gank fest murder hobos, because every time you do that, you lower your PvP efficiency. I don't think Lucky Ghost understands it's a two-part issue. The first part is every time you get more and more corruption, the more corruption you have, the less effective you are in PvP. When you die with corruption, you take a 400% death penalty and you can drop gear. Now, the gear dropping isn't the worst part of it. A normal non-combatant loses 2 to 3% of a level when they die, which means a corrupted is going to lose between 8 and 12% of a level in negative XP. That means until they work off all that negative XP, they are combat less than 100% efficient. So really, guys, I normally don't make reaction content, and this video has rolled on for 30 minutes, and I only got through half of Lucky Ghost's video. I don't think it was, I think I should have left that video in the first 10 seconds. But I want to remind you, if you want to stop content creators like that from being influential, you need to make sure that you're finding the content creators that sort of echo your sentiment and help build them up, because truthfully, that was a horrible video, and I'm actually really surprised that individual has a following as much as they do, but they do. It is what it is. I'm going to get back to what I'm doing. I will see you guys when I'm live on Twitch, and we can talk more about this video then.